Well, it's just the beginning of autumn. It's just getting a bit chilly now.
10 years after this airfield closed, mobile was still very basic.
Trouble with the recording outside with the wind is that you've got a lot of wind noise.
Yes, it certainly was windy and quite chilly. I'm at my favourite location, Leiston Airfield. There's the remains of the old runway. It was built in 1944 for the Americans and, believe it or not, was vacated in 1945. I take my van up there, do a bit of portable and mobile operation, and I find it very relaxing. But the subject today is more about mobile operation, but more to do with how effective it is. Well, it was certainly very cold, mainly because of the wind actually, but there again, autumn is coming on, so anyway, that weekend I had some great fun, some good contacts, but by coincidence I got an email from a viewer, a fairly newcomer to Ham Radio, and he asked me about mobile operation. He apparently got a small garden, which is why he watched some of my videos, and he'd installed himself an end-fed half wave, which was 20 metres long, given me 40, 20, 15 and 10, but his garden was only about 15 metres long, so he had to bend it round a bit. Well, I think he wanted to try mobile operation, but before he tried mobile operation he was a bit worried, because he thought, well, if you're going to use a short aerial, how effective is mobile operation going to be? And if I spend some money fitting out the car with some mobile equipment, I don't want to find that in actual fact nobody can hear me because of all the inherent sort of inefficiencies of a small mobile setup. So he wanted me to tell him what the difference would be. Well, you know, it's a sort of $64,000 question with many, many answers. It really depends. It depends on so many factors. But I recognise where he was coming from. And I thought, well, how can I advise him? How can I give him some sort of indication of what he might expect from a mobile system? And I thought, well, if I'm going to reply to him, which I did, perhaps I should do a video on it so that other people in the same situation, because I'm sure there's many of you out there that probably wondering about mobile operation, I could perhaps cover the topic and sort of basically tell you what I told him. Now let's first deal with the actual antenna itself. A mobile antenna is going to be obviously a lot shorter than the full-size antenna, and almost certainly you can have a vertical antenna for mobile operation. So let's take 20 metres, which is probably quite a popular band. A 20 metre antenna, quarter wave, full-size quarter wave, is 5 metres tall, and your average 20 metre mobile antenna is probably going to be about 1.5 metres tall. So it's about a fourth, and there's going to be a loss. Now, what is the loss in efficiency? Well, one very well-known and respected ham came up with a figure of approximately 4 dB, which perhaps is a bit surprising. When I heard 4 dB, I thought, well, that's a bit optimistic, 4 dB, but it was very convincing in the way he explained it. But I would say, okay, let's say that it's going to be 4 or 5 dB. We're edging up towards 1S point. But that's not that much. Let's call it, even we call it 6 dB. It's only an S point. But over what? What is the reference? Well, I think the reference was a ground-mounted vertical that he was describing. A ground-mounted vertical is going to give you 6 dB more gain than a shortish mobile whip, and so we're talking about 20 metres at the moment. So there is a loss there, 1S point, but 1S point is not the end of the world. But the next thing, of course, is the polarisation. Now, a lot of ham operators, in this case, this guy that got into contact with me, he was using an end-fed half wave. It was a horizontal antenna, around about 7 metres above ground, so he told me. And A vertical antenna obviously is cross-polarised. We've got an infrared half wave which is horizontal, and a mobile antenna is a quarter wave vertical. But of course you do have to remember that an antenna that transmits vertical energy, the energy finally arrives at the far point. It's not vertically polarised, it could be anything really, it's all over the place. What it does mean to say is that the energy leaving the antenna is vertically polarised. So there is really no cross-polarisation loss as there would be on VHF and UHF. Perhaps the mobile whip can best be represented by a shortened vertical dipole. But a shortened vertical dipole will predominantly radiate low-angle radiation, which is good for DX. But I'm not sure even that is correct, because I've heard some very convincing signals on 40 metres, for example, where the distance is only around about 200 to 300 miles, and some good S9 signals from mobile whips. So it's possible that the mobile whip itself doesn't give the same angle of radiation as you would expect. Probably the car body has quite a major effect on the angle of radiation. And really and truly, the only way you're ever going to solve this is by 3D modelling. And unfortunately, I think 3D modelling is beyond the ability of many ham radio operators, because the actual software is very expensive. But if anybody has done any 3D modelling on mobile antennas, taking into account the car, etc., be interested to see the results. But when we talk about mobile, not everybody moves around, drives the car where they're operating. In fact, I would say a majority these days don't. They park up. So if they park up, you can park in a location which is far better than home. Now, if you watch my videos once again, you'll know that the ideal place for a vertical antenna is in the middle of nowhere, where it's got nothing around it at all. It's clear for quite a few wavelengths. That's not what you get at home. But in a mobile situation, you can park in that situation. So maybe you can grab back a bit of the loss. You can grab back a bit of that 6 dB loss by parking in an area where there's no interruption. Because the mobile antenna, the vertical antenna, does rely very much on the surrounding terrain over several wavelengths. So it's not a bad situation to put yourself in. You're in a situation where there's not too much in the way. As I showed you in this opening video, that's where I've been operating. It certainly seems to benefit. Now, let's go beyond that. If you're parked up, you don't need a base-loaded vertical. Certainly for 20 metres, you could actually erect a much taller antenna. In fact, you could erect a full-size 20-metre quarter wave. It's only 16 foot high, 5 metres. All right, you have to sort of make it such that it's not going to fall over. But there are plenty of stations that do operate with full-size verticals, full-size quarter-wave verticals that is, on 20 metres when they're parked up. And then there is no loss. It's as efficient as your home antenna. But if you're parked in a nice location, it could be better than your home antenna. And we haven't really got yet to that really, really special place. That really special place is near the sea. Park up near the sea and you will get at least a 2 S-point improvement. You'll get at least 12 dB improvement. So let's put all these things together. You operate a full-size vertical quarter wave on 20 metres. You park near the sea. You've already got an antenna which is better than your home station antenna because you're parked in great open space without anything in the way. And then the seawater gives you an extra 2 S points. So The answer is that you probably won't lose too much by operating mobile. Certainly if you park in the right place, you'll probably be pleasantly surprised. And if you park near the seawater, you'll be absolutely in ecstasy. You'll be in ham radio heaven with amazing performance. So the answer is that a mobile system does have some challenges, but they're very easily overcome. Park up in a nice open space, park near the sea if you can, and don't forget that your quarter wave vertical is probably only losing about 6 dB gain, even in the worst case. So that's my take on mobile HF operation. Now, this is not scientific, it's based on conception, it's based on conjecture, but it's also based on experience. So, if you want to go mobile, take the plunge. You will be pleasantly surprised, guarantee it. Thanks for watching this video, you take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. If you're looking for a nice range of high performance, well engineered HF mobile whips, take a look at the Diamond range on our website. They offer excellent value, beautifully made, and they'll last a lifetime.